speeding, and action.
I don't even know the fella. You said I knew him? You're smarter than I am. They tell the story about two Jews getting off an Arab. 2, 3, 4. Anyway, I would like to say that in those days, it was so different than these days. Of course, it's 30 years, or more than 30 years. How old am I? I don't know how old you are. Anyway, Carole, this is what, I'm not going to call you Carole because you're not going to be doing it. You're cutting it and you're directing it. 4 or 5. Anyway, what was I saying? Whatever I was saying didn't belong to me. I'll tell you. That's a cut. Now,
Shall I cut?
Absolutely.
and they're all on him.
Yep.
They're setting up a date for him. You can say,
Yep, we're rolling.
shh, quiet on the room.
Okay.
You say rolling and then say action.
Okay.
And, Carole, wait till I light my cigar.
Yes, I will.
And then speak.
Yes. So I get that.
Now,
Absolutely.
you can call me Uncle Milty. You can call me anything you want. Milton,
Okay.
just call it out, son.
Okay. And
You rolling?
and ready. And speed. And action.
I gotta get a room. Yes?
Tell me, Milton, tell me about the Rio Bamba when, if you know,
The Rio
the
Bombo?
Rio Bamba, a nightclub in New York, when they paid Sinatra all that money to go in there and headline, and then Dean Martin followed him in for very little money because the club had to pay Frank so much money.
Let me see the date. That must have been in the
Probably about
late 40s.
45, 46.
Can I speak?
Yes, of course.
You asked me a question?
Yes.
I think it's in the late 40s. I was doing the Texaco show at that time. What they paid? What was the question?
When did you meet Dean Martin at that time when he followed Frank Sinatra into the
Who
Rio
gave you the
Bamba?
impression? Pardon me for interrupting, but that's my trademark. Who gave? You said the Rio Bamba.
Mm-hmm.
Where was it located? Do you know?
It was in the 40s
I
off
know.
of in the Times Square area, the Rio Bamba nightclub. You refer to it in your book.
No, I don't think so. Are you referring to Dean Martin or
Frank Sinatra was there first, and then Dean followed him in. And you tell in your book about being in the men's room of the Rio Bamba with Frank Sinatra. And
Yeah.
going to that club and listening to him. And I'm just wondering if you can recapture for me what it was like to go to a club and hear Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin in New York in the late 40s. What was that like? Was it
Well, it was something. It wasn't the late 40s. I think it was the middle 40s. It was something. It was Sinatra, chairman of the board. He was an icon then, even more than he is now. He was different. He came from Hoboken, we know that. And he was a young singer that has style, and I'll remember very, very well, and it doesn't refer to the Rio Bamba, but when he appeared in New Jersey for the first time in a nightclub, got booked in someplace, I can't remember the name, I think.
Bill Miller's Riviera?
No, this is when he
Before
first
that.
started. Yeah, he looked like a string bean, and he came from Hoboken, and I can't remember. You look it up and find. He gave an audition for this club, and one of the bosses that owned the club was sitting there like this, and Frank had a style, and he got the style, I guess, from the breathing of the trombonist, the greatest, Dorsey, right? Tommy Dorsey. This is before he went with Dorsey. So he was given this audition, and he sang in his own inimitable way. And the guy said, hold it, pal. Louder. Well, Frank had a relaxed way of speaking with his own style and his own way of working and own singing, which was dynamic. He never heard. And he sang, This Before I'll Never Smile Again in any of those songs. So he says, what's the problem? Frank said. And the guy said, you don't sing loud enough. And Frank was kind of gingery at that time. He said, well, pal, it's the only way I know how to sing. And it's my style. The guy said, what do you mean style? Well, he says, that's the way I breathe, that's the way I sing. And he was so mellow, not that mellow as later on in the years, but he was wonderful. But this guy didn't understand into this club. He says, can't hear. And he didn't get the job. So the guy lost the star. But the Rio Bamba, I remember very, very well now. It comes back to me. Frank Sinatra was there, and he was just wonderful. And the question you asked was, did Dean Martin follow him in? Well, I think that was way early 40s. That was in, oh my goodness, that was 43, 44. And at that time, Dino Crescetti was a singer that was referred to me because I was during the Second World War, I was doing a radio program for the overseas radio, and I needed a singer. So somebody said, I got a kid that sings very well. Right? Where did he come from? He came
Steubenville, Ohio.
Steubenville. He was a dealer.
Singing with the Sammy Watkins band.
I remember that. I don't remember the band. So they referred this Dino Crescetti to me, and I said, so he gave me an audition in my office, and I said, and he had a carefree style, and of course, at that time, he was doing, in my estimation, Bing Crosby, but with his own moves. And I said, gee, he's wonderful to me, and he's going to fit in. This is radio. Now, this wasn't visual, and he was on. I put him on my show with me. It was called Milton Berle for the overseas, for the servicemen, and he was my singer. Dean Martin was my singer on that show. Then he developed, and he did the show with me for about 35 weeks, 35 shows, 35 weeks, and he didn't talk too much because he didn't have that experience, so he learned the little things, and we clowned around, and we sang songs together and all that. This is Dino. Then I said, gee, you got to get booked someplace in a nightclub here, or a cabaret or a cafe. So I knew somebody on the 56th Street side, on the east side, that owned a nightclub. And I said, I got a guy for you, he's just wonderful. And I remember very well, handyman Milton wanted to do everything, fix the lights, fix the sound and everything. And I went over there with him for the opening night, and I was there for him for the opening night, and he did tremendous. And he took off from there. And that was the first time that he ever worked in a cafe and a nightclub, was this club. I'm trying to think of the club. I'll no doubt think of something funny on my way home, by the way.
Well, he might have been playing at the Glass Hat.
No.
No, he wasn't at the Glass Hat, because I know he was living in the Bryant Hotel with Lou Perry and Sonny King for a lot of years.
Oh, I remember those days. God bless him, Dino. He was terrific. And when I was,
Sonny King told me that they used to put on like boxing matches for guys to bet on up in the hotel room.
when they showed the fights, you mean?
Right.
Well, yeah, it was-
And that Dean had just had his nose fixed, so he told Sonny, now you can't hit my face. You got to hit my body, not my face.
Well, also, I'd like to say, being that you mentioned he had his nose fixed, he cut his nose despite his race, 2, 3, 4. But I was the one, well, you caught me off guard here. I was the one that sent him to the doctor that did his nose job, right? It's like the joke, I paid for the guy's dentistry, now he's laughing with my teeth, right? We never said anything who paid for anything, but I sent him to my man, and he did the job. See, if he wasn't like Durante, but he needed a nose job, and he got it, and it really worked. And
I have a picture of you with Dean and Jerry the first time they played the Copa. Had Dean changed a lot by the time he was at the Copa with Jerry? Did that change him in terms of the guy you knew?
No. Changed Jerry. It changed Jerry,
Right.
but it didn't change Dino. God bless Jerry, but it did. It didn't change him. He was still loose. He was still carefree, and he had a drink once in a while, and he was very cool. Very cool.
That was also, according to the research that I've done, that night at the Copa, I think it was about 48. I think it was 48. That was the first time Frank met Dean Martin. Skinny D'Amato wanted to show Sinatra what a great act he had discovered at the 500, and he brought Frank to see Dean and Jerry at the Copa. There are pictures of all of you. Gleason, everybody's there that night. Was it a
Nobody was
family?
drinking, of course. Nobody was drinking. Forget it. What?
Was it like a family, or were you all very competitive with each other at that point?
We were not competitive because we were all in a different venue. We were all not a venue. We were all in a different style. Comedians or comics that usually have an enmity toward other comics, but we had a family there. That was a family, and we used to pal around with each other and kid with each other and throw lines at each other. Of course, they were a little younger than I was, but we did line. I'll never forget one night. I think it was, you were talking about Frank. God love him. He was at the Paramount Theater when he first got started. Not when he first got started, when he first hit it big. And I was sitting in the audience. No, I was at the Low State when he was at the Paramount, and they were practically diagonal to each other. And in between my shows of doing 4 shows a day, 5 at Low State, I went over backstage to see Sinatra, and he didn't know I was in the wings. So he was in the middle of a song, and very brazen, very brash, very flippant. I was gutsy then, maybe now, but not as much. And I walked out on him. I said, "Hold it. Would you hold it?" And the audience looked at me. You know, I was appearing at a Low State, which is like competition. I said, "Folks, I'm very, very happy to be here at this wonderful place at Low State." And Frank was sharp enough at that time to say, tap me on the shoulder. He says, "You're at the Paramount." I said, "No. Oh, my God, I'm in the wrong theater." And I walked out. See, the heckling and the interruptions was all part of the improv and the ad-libs that all happened during this career. We said things to each other. "It's a lovely suit. Who shines it for you?" or whatever it was, whatever put downs. We made another discovery of mine. Don Rickles looked like Peter Pan. Not suggestive. Nothing. No four-letter words. Not what we have on cable today and different shows. What the cable comics do today, all the four-letter words, and I'm not for that at all. But we were cool. Now, maybe a lot of the lines that we threw at each other were stock lines, but they fit, and we heckled each other. Oh, I'll never forget. That's the story. I was at a benefit once with Frank, but I wasn't in the show. But I went to see the show. He did a benefit out here in Beverly Hills, and they wouldn't let him off the stage. And he was doing it gratis for this, I don't know, some society, cancer drive or something, or Alzheimer's, and he didn't know I was in the audience, and I was there. And he kept singing songs and songs. They were all yelling. And he happened to say, "Now what would you like to hear?" And I yelled, "Tony Bennett," from the audience. It was a big scream, and Frank said, I didn't know he was going to be here, but that's Milton. And the words... Then we started adding, but you see, the relaxation in those days, and you were talking about competition, we didn't compete with each other for jobs or anything. Well, I was in the business much longer than they, but in that era, I didn't think they had love for each other. They met each other after the show. Where are we going to go? What do we want to do? You want to go to this club? And we didn't get to bed maybe till 4 or 5 in the morning, which turned into Vegas, where you don't go to sleep, and you get to bed in Vegas. Vegas has changed too, which is not what this conversation is about. But we did our work, for example, in Vegas, but we wanted to have some fun ourselves and relaxation. So I would call Sonny King, I would call this one, I would call Frank would call Damone, I would call Dino. Where do you want to go for Italian dinner? You want Chinese food? And we'd all congregate. It was very friendly in the highlight of the high days in Vegas. So I don't think there was any competition. That's the final answer to the first question you asked. That took about a year to me to answer.
Wonderful. It's wonderful because the other thing was very wonderful.
Wait just a minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
And you folks that are watching, talk to each other, because I got to light my cigar. Oh. When you do this for nothing, too, this is for nothing. I'm not getting paid for this. Will you stop laughing, please? Let them laugh that are watching, if they were laughing. And if you don't laugh, all right, forget it. Just a minute. Where's my mouth? Oh, here it is. I thought I was taller. 92, 93. We're up to 92, 93. Well, oh, you're still there? What else do you want to know? You're very beautiful. For a man, you're very beautiful.
A woman down in Atlantic City by the name of Jeannie Fideli owned a restaurant called Ferrara's.
Yeah, I remember that very well. Ferrara's, that's the restaurant.
That's right next to the 500 on Missouri Avenue. And she said that when you'd finish work, you'd go in and eat, and nobody ever bothered you. Like, fans wouldn't
The
annoy
paparazzi,
you.
we didn't have big paparazzis in those days. No, you're right. Nobody bothered us, because if they bothered us, there was always some guy would say, "Hey, don't bother them. Don't bother them. They're relaxing." Or we would be very, very nice, most of us, but that was our time to relax. And
But you didn't have to hide behind walls or electronic fences.
go out through the underground. I mean, no, not those.
You could
days.
just go out and be with people, and people just
They wouldn't.
respected
They
that.
wouldn't really do what happened, to recently in the news, or what happened of stalkers or people follow you. No, they didn't bug us. And if they did, all we had to do was do this. Frank or Dino would do this. Yes, what is it? Very glad to see you. A prop smile. Yeah, glad. Thank you. Not now. I'll give you the autograph later. And then he would say, "Have you eaten?" To the guy that asked him. He says, "Yes." He says, "Well, would you give me the privilege of me eating now, and then I'll sign your autograph?" Then as he left, he said, "I got rid of him, didn't I?" That's the way it went. Very relaxed, very great fun. We mixed our talents and our entertainment, tried to get the best out of life, to live it ourselves, to live our own life. But it was a little rough as you got a little later in years, because you became more popular, and then autographs and paparazzis, which is very flattering, but it does get you.
Let me ask you, I have some footage of you and Frank and Ava Gardner at the opening of a movie called Meet Danny Wilson. It was not at a good time in Sinatra's career, but I remember looking at the footage and thinking how cordial you were to them. I mean, Frank is, it was not a successful time for him. And I was wondering how you happened to be there.
That story is very vivid in my mind. Meet Danny Wilson. I was married at that time to a very wonderful woman, this years and years ago, Ruth Cosgrove. She was a newspaper woman and a press agent, and one of the highest paid and one of the first female press agents, and she was working for Eagle Lion motion picture company, and they presented this picture, Meet Danny Wilson. And she asked me, I had met her just, I don't know, a year before or something, but that night she asked me, would I like to go to see the picture? And I said yes. And this is the night that you're referring to, when Frank was with Ava, and I was with my late wife, Ruth Cosgrove, because she was doing the publicity for the picture. That's how we met. And I met Ava, who was, of course, gorgeous, and so was Ruth, very congenial and very sharp. And it was, I guess, I said, is this going to do you any good, Ruth? She said, well, I'd like you to be there, because I read through the lines that possibly would snap pictures and everything to help her. And I said yes. And that's how we met. That was the picture, Meet Danny Wilson.
That's interesting, because that wasn't a particularly good time in Frank Sinatra's career.
What date was that? Let me see.
1951.
Oh, it was a bad time. I don't want to...
I know it was a bad time because I know that that was when he appeared there, and they
after he did...
They put that famous headline in the New York Journal American, Frank Sinatra, gone on Frankie in 42, gone in 52.
I lived through that with him. In fact, when I did the Texaco show, first live, some of it was dead, but this show, the series, the William Morris Agency were handling Frank. And of course, the William Morris Agency is an agency out here, ladies and gentlemen that are watching, a wonderful agency, especially the agents. They're very relaxed. They kind of agents that say, I'll see you in about 4 weeks. Your own agent. And Frank was really in trouble then in 51, which we won't talk about because it's past. And they asked me at the Morris office, Morris Agency, which was handling him, would I give him a shot on the Texaco show. And I think there's a clip on that. And he looked like a skinny little... The audience went, huh? When you see it now. And I have it in my archives. And I was bugged. I was really bugged. Because he was in trouble from that headline you were talking about, that he really had to make a comeback in those days. So somebody at the Morris office, I said, let me please book Frank on the show. This after he did Eternity and all those pictures and everything with Gene Kelly and everything. And I said, they said, no, well, we didn't have a salary high or low on that. We just paid, there was no leveled salary or performance. And they said to me, I won't mention the guy's name, he's gone, who handled Frank there at the Morris office. He said, you can have him for a certain amount of money. And I said, you can have him for $2,500 a show, for the show. And I got so mad at the Morris, the guy that made the offer. I said, if I ever get into trouble in a position that Frank is in, are you going to undersell? Are you going to just do this to me too? And I got so mad. I started to use 4-letter words and curse words. I said, wrong. He's a heavyweight. He's a star. He's a star. The position that he's in now, how dare you? How dare you? I said this to the agent at the market. How dare you only ask $2,500? I said, I'm giving him more than the top. I'm giving him $7,500 for one performance. Because if you're doing this to Sinatra, what are you going to do to me? What are you going to do to the other clients? Well, that's the great line of what's the difference between a duck and the William Morris Agency. I said, I don't know. He said, well, a duck clucks defiance. $104, $105, figure that out. And then I said, if you do that to him, you're going to do it to me. I said, no, he's going to get $7,500. You're going to get $15,000 for 2 performances. I remember we did a scene with Martha Ray, and I have the clips, and I have all the, and they're all live shows, and it's remarkable how relaxed Frank was on that show, because he had been playing in cafes, and he did everything. He worked hard to get where he is. And I said, don't undercut him, please, to me, because that was the story. And I always loved Frank because of his great talent.
Sonny told me
New
the same.
tape.
Sonny told me the
Are
same.
you going all right?
Yeah,
going
just,
great.
we're at the end. We need a new role.
Sonny King told me that about Modalitz. He told me that Modalitz was always